So there's this concept in auction market theory. We have periods of accumulation where we have people building up positions in anticipation of a large move in one direction. Now, what you have to understand about how the markets work, it's not built to reward the majority. This doesn't mean that the market's rigged. This is just because imagine everyone's accumulating here. There's a valid bullish thesis and we have this large move up. Everyone here would have just ended up becoming millionaires. That's just not how the market works. Everyone who is accumulating here becomes an opportunity for liquidity. So what I mean by that is imagine there's people filling longs here. Where are they going to place their stops? They're going to place their stops underneath the lows. So it's not a coincidence when we see what's in this theory called manipulation, where price will then go down, take out these buyers, capturing liquidity. Remember that this move pays. Price dipping down here and taking out these longs paid the shorts, and then we get the real move, because from a fundamental standpoint and from a technical standpoint, this asset was meant to rise, but because of that manipulation that takes place, it's going to first take out those who accumulated and then have the actual move. So how does this tie into NVIDIA? Knowing this theory, what you always want to look out for is the manipulation, and this manipulation is exactly where it's the most opportune time to buy. So now how does this tie into NVIDIA? Well, recently the largest bets on tech and AI recently got hit with margin calls and got acquired by Citadel. So what happened here is Leopold Aschenbrenner accumulated a portfolio of tech and AI positions because he used to work at OpenAI and he had the insight to see that this is where the sector's going, this is where the money's going, and he was right. But the issue is that he used leverage. Because he used leverage, what ended up happening is we can look at NQ to kind of track his portfolio. Okay, now you tell me what this looks like. Here we have accumulation. Everything about tech, although they have high spending, their earnings are really good, and the bullish thesis on tech is still sound. So what do you have here? You have people accumulating here, anticipating the move up. We have the manipulation that came in. Now keep in mind, this doesn't look like a lot when we zoom out, but this was enough pressure to take out $1 billion hedge fund. And what do we have coming next? After the accumulation and manipulation, we're going to have a period as soon as Leopold's portfolio hit margin, and we should see a strong move to the upside coming from here. And this is why I have my eyes on NVIDIA. Now, if you want to get deeper into this, you can look into things like Iron and Bloom Energy, some of the things that take up more of his portfolio, even SanDisk. But the reason I have a focal point on NVIDIA is because NVIDIA is the cornerstone of this whole market. Everyone needs GPUs. If their thesis fails, then the whole market is going to get pulled down with them. You need the demand in GPUs for this whole thesis to play out. And this is reflected in the fact that NVIDIA is the #1 largest piece of the NASDAQ. Okay, so now let's get into NVIDIA itself. You can see that whenever lows are set, that they're rarely ever even touched. Now when we zoom out, you can see that period of manipulation that happened was right around here. And now looking at the way that NVIDIA behaves, you can see that whenever it sets a low, it rarely revisits that low. It will have an impulse move up. It will then retrace, always respecting that last low and maintaining this bullish structure. Now you can see the last low that was set was right around here, and we're just beginning to have this impulse move up. So there's a second key piece of data that's important to consider, which is that, okay, so now what I like to do with my personal style of trading is that I'll consider the fundamental environment that we're in. So we're starting to shift bullish. Next, I'm looking at price action, because if the fundamental environment can support it, we need price action to support it. So now looking at the price action, we see higher lows being set. We see a recent higher low being set previously. Now the third thing, and what gives me an edge in this position, is that I'll be looking for data points that provide us patterns that support our position. So the data point that I'm looking at right now is that the last 4 earnings reports for NVIDIA led to a downside move. What this tells me is that bears are looking for a catalyst in order to enter shorts. The catalyst in the last few instances has been the earnings, and we have an earnings day coming up. So what I can assume is that that earnings day can serve as a pivot point. It can turn out to be bullish, it can lead to more upside, but we need to prepare for if our plan fails. So now we can look at that earnings day. From the time that I'm making this video, there's about 3 weeks or so until earnings. So we can see here the earnings report for NVIDIA is set to release on Wednesday, August the 26th. This is going to serve as a pivot point. You can see that there's still highs that we need to tap into. So we can assume that looking at the data, so let's hop into Market AI's chatbot here. You can chat with the bot and ask for key data points. It makes it a lot easier to do this kind of research. So after talking to Market AI, we can see here that the data confirms what we're talking about here. NVIDIA is mispriced. Revenue's grown 85%. That's 140% 20% year on year, and the stock is only up 20%. So what I see here is that NVIDIA is being pulled down by the weight of other semiconductors and other tech stocks being very overvalued. The data confirms that there is a misprice here, and I also made sure to confirm what I said earlier regarding the last 4 earnings leading to downside. And we can see here that, like I said earlier, the broad semiconductor weakness and the fundamentals pushing it down caused a situation where NVIDIA beat earnings over and over again, but the stock continued to plummet down. Now, what you need to remember is that this is an auction, and so when you see something that's mispriced, what that is an opportunity. Now, this isn't a free golden ticket where you can just buy NVIDIA and start printing money. In today's market, even if you have the correct thesis, you have everything lining up, your entry is 70% of that position, because you have others in the market actively day to day, hour to hour, hunting for positioning, hunting for the ideal entry. And so even though right now we have confirmation that this overall thesis is sound, what we need to focus on now is the entry. So 2 things to consider here. Number 1, if we look at the COT report, we can see that the Nasdaq is still overall bearish. This will show us how institution and retail is positioned, and we can see that they're largely still short. So we need to be cautious in our entry. This is a high risk, high reward entry where we're looking for a shift in sentiment in order to capture the majority of the upside. So let's drop into NVIDIA and see where that entry could take place. Market again helps us here by marking out key levels. Now, the ideal is that we're able to sustain this move and we just head to the upside, but personally what I'm looking for is I notice that there's a big gap here. Now again, going back to the auction theory, we know that the market has their eyes on Leopold getting liquidated. So what draws my attention is that we have a large gap up here, we have a gap up here. Bulls are entering positions with large conviction, but buyers are stepping in so heavily that we're getting displacements in the price, and typically the market will go back to fill in these displacements. So in terms of the actual entry, what I'll be looking out for this week is whether we actually get a return to the 215 support level. In my opinion, that'll be a phenomenal buy. After filling this gap, we can look to see some upside, taking out the longs that got in a little late around here. Now, the alternative is that the bullish sentiment is so strong that we get a close above this level and we don't revisit these lows and we simply have a move up. Keep in mind, this gap between the 2 scenarios is around like a $10 gap. So if you are positioned with large size, with a large enough stop loss, the thesis is still sound. But personally, I want to wait and I want to get an optimal entry. So I will be looking out the rest of this week to see how this plays out. So just to recap, we've done a top-down analysis of NVIDIA. The thesis is that due to fundamentals, top-down analysis of NVIDIA, on the higher time frame, we have tech being very bullish. We have short-term bearish sentiment coming in based on hedge funds and large players positioning too strongly into this tech momentum. That got taken advantage of where we see Leopold getting margin called. That's a catalyst. So we have a catalyst for a shift in sentiment or a return back to the overall sentiment after some short-term downside. We have tech stocks consistently beating earnings. We have the Fed easing up, and now we zoom into the short-term price action and we can see how the auction is taking place on a day-to-day. We can see that bulls are very strong here, causing displacements or inefficiencies in pricing that can be taken advantage of in order to get optimal entries. Keep an eye on NVIDIA for any retracements for some good entries. Keep an eye on bullish continuation, and of course keep in mind that nothing is guaranteed. If you do see something like this gap being filled and this level turning into resistance and it failing to make new highs, that will be an indication that this short-term bearish move is set to continue, and that we can even see further manipulation to take out buyers that got in here because they were excited about the catalyst of the hedge fund being liquidated, etc., in order to position for even better entries down here. Now that's far less likely, so I am still overall bullish, but that is something to look out for. You always want to plan for the worst case and the best case. If this helped out, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'll be doing a lot more analysis like this. There's hours that go into this kind of research, and you're getting all that value in a little snippet, so I hope you enjoyed. Good luck in the markets this week.